Now, I'm going to be talking about something that even Carnivore, for that matter, could not help me with, and basically related to my blood markers. And this is actually very interesting, and I think this actually has to do with basically residual phytotoxins that existed within my skin, because if you don't already know, or a little bit about my story, I pretty much have acne or had acne. Anyways, it's almost completely gone now. But I've basically had this for 2 years, even on the carnivore diet. And from what I'm aware of, many people on the carnivore diet usually have this gone, or their acne and eczema, within 6 months. Now, I've had mine for 2 years. So that probably means that it's something deeper down, or that's the thought anyways. I'm not entirely sure what it is exactly. But this is something very annoying, and it's something that I had a lot of trouble with, and I wanted to get rid of it, and I did actually manage to quite literally get rid of almost all of it now. And this is very, very interesting, and I even have blood tests, for that matter, to prove that this was the thing that was doing it. So we're going to go over my carnivore experience. Not only that, we're also going to be going over a little bit of my blood test results, which are very interesting, and afterwards we're going to go before and after, and why even carnivore did not seem to work. And this probably has to do with chronic inflammation and basically me having problems actually metabolizing lipids in the first place. So let's get to it. So originally, when I did start carnivore, I obviously felt much better, and a little bit afterwards I actually did get blood tests. However, during that time, actually my inflammation, more specifically my face and my back, actually flared up more originally, and I was basically getting more of this acne and more of all of this other back eczema and whatever, chest acne. All of it was just getting worse, or at least it looked like it was getting worse, but I think I was actually getting rid of it during that time. Now, when I started carnivore, I actually did start to get rid of this, and originally my CRP was 0.54, which was definitely on the higher end. My triglycerides were 95, my cholesterol was 290, and my HDL was 70. So my cholesterol was basically 220. That's not really that much, but this is something very interesting because as time goes on and as I was carnivore longer and longer and longer, you might have guessed, yes, well, this is what I guessed anyways. What I thought was very interesting was my CRP actually increased over time, and basically this chronic inflammation, more so showing on my skin, constantly, was basically always there and always existing. And even to this day, or well, it's pretty much almost gone now completely, but even to this day, almost, my CRP basically was really, really high, and it continues to be very, very high. Now, this is very interesting because if we look at my second blood test, which is about a year-ish later, my CRP actually ended up going up a year later, and I think it was actually chronically elevated this entire time, I'm pretty sure. It went up to 1.65, which is very interesting. But notice when I said chronically elevated, because this is going to be very important later. My total cholesterol was 610, and my HDL was 75, so my HDL did go up, but my total cholesterol also did go up. I'll put the math there so you can see what my LDL then is. I don't have a VLDL specifically, but we can probably guess what my LDL was, and this has to do with the fact that if we look at my triglycerides, it was 245. Now that is that's really, really high, especially for a carnivore, and that's very strange because this is not something a carnivore should be having problems with. So why exactly could this be occurring? Well, I have a couple ideas, but I will eventually show you. There is actually something a little bit like right here on my eye, and it's even an indicator of this, and this is what I think is the real problem here. It's quite literally that I have this chronic inflammation, and because of this chronic inflammation that I have, because of an autoimmune problem or something along those lines, basically I can't actually use the lipids during this chronic inflammation, because originally, if we look here, I was actually doing perfectly fine about a year ago. But if we look here, it's higher. So what's going on? Well, what was very interesting though was on this second day, I made sure that I had no exercise the day before. And you might say, why is that important? Well, the triglycerides, you would assume, should get lower then if this is the case, basically because I'm using the triglycerides. And if I'm using the triglycerides, then that means the triglycerides should get lower. Well, this is where we come to my third test, and this is very, very interesting because if we look at my CRP, it actually went up during this time, even higher. There's a couple of reasons why it actually went up. It could be because of the chronic stress environment. To the family members watching this video. It could also be, it could be a number of things, but to keep it really short, my CRP was actually doubled basically at that point, and it's very, very high. Now my cholesterol was 571 and my HDL was 74. Now, if you do a little bit of the math, you'll see that my cholesterol was basically around 490 something, basically 500. But my triglycerides this day were 245. Very, very high once again. So you might wonder and you might go, okay, well, you made sure that you didn't exercise or you did exercise. What did you do in order to test whether or not exercise was or wasn't a variable? Well, this is exactly what I did actually. I made sure that I exercised the day before this. And not only that, I did my regular workout with even more afterwards. Yes, that's right. I did tennis afterwards with my dad during that time. And basically I had no cerule products. And this is where we will come to cerule eventually, because literally it does seem as if cerule did stop this. I will continue to have blood tests in the future, so I will let you guys know. Once again, this is very, very interesting to me. Whether it is or isn't, you can decide for yourself, but this is some very interesting results. The fourth and the final test a week later, I had a CRP of 2.45, which already that's actually really good because that means it went down by 0.5. Very good, especially I think it's very good because especially with my chronic inflammation, that's not ideal. My cholesterol was 553. Once again, very high. I think high cholesterol is good. If you don't know why exactly, you can check out the Real Nutrition Science playlist because I explain that. But this is the very interesting part. My HDL was 80, so it went up by 5. More specifically, my triglycerides dropped. They didn't drop by a little, they dropped by half, which is insane. Okay? And if you remember, I said the last test that I did, I made sure that I worked out. The day before I took that test, and what did I find out? The triglycerides did not change at all. But here I decided, okay, I will work out. I won't work out as hard actually on this day. I didn't keep the environment exactly the same. But what I did do was I actually added cerule, and I basically, the second I stopped on this 3rd week blood test right here, I added cerule products, and I basically did it for 7 days. And I specifically took Plasma Flow, I took Cyactive, and I took Stem Enhance. Now, based on how the mechanisms of that stuff works, I'm not going to explain that, but based on how those mechanisms work, you would understand that there is actually a chance that this could quite literally help lower this problem that I have with 1, high triglycerides, and 2, high CRP. And I took cerule the past 7 days, and I made sure that I played tennis the day before, so I basically kept it the same than week 3. Okay, so the exact same thing during week 3 I did this day, but I did not do my regular workout, so I actually worked out even less. So you would assume that my triglycerides would either stay the same or they would go up a little bit if cerule had no effect. However, my triglycerides didn't just go down, they literally got halved. They went down to 120. Now that's insane. That's ridiculously insane. Now, if you understand some of the science behind this and basically how exactly this is going on, you might say, how on earth is cerule lowering your triglycerides? That doesn't make much sense. Well, this is where we come to basically lipid metabolism being impaired. Yes, lipid metabolism can be impaired during chronic inflammation. And as you might have guessed, during my first blood test, basically a year later, after that 1 year carnivore thing, I wasn't doing a super ideal carnivore. It was basically chicken, but regardless, mostly chicken anyways, and pork and other things, not as much red meat. During that first year, the blood test didn't seem too bad, and basically my CRP was a little bit elevated, obviously, but it didn't really seem that bad. It was just a little bit on the higher end. But as you might already know, with basically me having an autoimmune condition, or I'm pretty sure I do, it's just basically undiagnosed by a doctor, it's very, very obvious that I have elevated CRP afterwards. And if we look at my skin, or basically my eczema during that time, it would line up exactly with that because my skin was flaring up even more. You might even be able to look at some of my past videos during that time, for that matter, when I uploaded them, and you would see exactly that. My face actually, in fact, you might even be able to see it right now. There is a little part right here. This little bump right here used to be way bigger, and you actually would notice, you would definitely notice this one right here in my previous videos. Basically, if you look 2 to 3 weeks back, you actually might quite literally be able to find this little point right here that I have where it was more inflamed. However, after cerule, and basically after that whole thing, you would realize that it's almost non-existent. Now, assuming that my inflammation was chronically elevated, basically, which it was in my previous results, then you would notice, oh, okay, that might make a little bit more sense in terms of why exactly I'm getting those problems when it comes to metabolizing and basically trying to deal with those triglycerides. And it's why that number stayed completely the same even after exercise. It didn't make a difference because of the chronic inflammation. But the second I added cerule in, specifically, I think it more so has to do with, most likely the main contributors were stem enhance and Cyactive, because stem enhance basically allows for extra stem cells, and that probably helps with the healing process, especially with Cyactive deactivating COX-2 when it comes to dealing with the constant inflammatory response. I think that was a very, very big contributor. Now, the third one is just plasma flow. I think that's a little bit important in terms of the vascular system, so I just added that in there just in case, because I think it's helpful when it comes to basically breaking down fibrin. But regardless, that is basically what I did, and it shows in my blood results, which is very, very interesting. Now, if this wasn't enough to convince you that I think cerule works insanely well, because it quite literally did lower my inflammation, because we can literally see it in the blood results. And not only that, it also is healing my back eczema at a rapid pace. Just to show you actually a picture, because I never actually showed too many pictures of this. I might have a previous one if you managed to find a child version picture of me, because I did have it then. Yeah, that actually used to be filled with way more bumps. And not only that, there was actually one spot there that was very annoying. Hopefully my blood test results actually show you that I really do think that cerule works. Now, once again, this is from my experience. Everybody would have different problems. I don't necessarily think that this is going to work for everybody, because some people might have different problems. Like, for instance, Eddie Goki, if you don't already know, I did an interview with him. And in my interview with Eddie Goki, he basically has joint problems, and cerule also managed to help his joint problems as well. So if you really are interested in this cerule stuff, because I really do think that this can really help you speed up your healing process, probably, I'm not entirely sure, but I would probably also say that it would most likely help with anti-aging, and this has to do with the fact that you are literally forcing stem cell release as well. And by the way, if you don't know how stem cell release works, basically there are a limited amount of stem cells. However, these stem cells are basically constantly regrowing, and you can just regrow them over and over and over and over and over again. You basically die with the same number of stem cells that you were born with. So it's a really interesting thing. Once again, thanks for watching. If you found the video informative and helpful, please actually go click that link down below, my cerule link, because it really will help me get more free products, because that's actually the main reason why I'm endorsing them, because this works so well. It shows in my blood test, and I want you guys to know this, because it works so damn well. Now, if you're interested, once again, in helping this video and spreading this video, like, share, subscribe, comment down below, because it really does help the channel grow. And if you're interested in seeing all of my videos ahead of time, or you even want to support me personally as well, click the join button down below, where you can see all of my videos ahead of time, as well as support me personally. So once again, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.